is
Whatever he says, believe only him.
truth is, it's not only a pleasure, but really an honor, really an honor to have Rabbi Paysach Krohn here with us today. I'll tell you guys a story before he tells you a story. Some of you guys know, I spent Shabbat with him and the Rebbitzin in the Playa Bonita, Gan Eden, in Panama. We had a Shabbat together. I must tell you guys, one of the most beautiful Shabbats I ever had. It was just every step of the way, from the speak, very inspirational. We had 200 kids, something like that. 200 kids.
First seminar, then.
For the first, and then there was another seminar, and Baruch Hashem, we had a beautiful time together. So I know Rav Paysach Krohn from a long time ago, read his books, heard his cassettes, but when you meet him in person, you see something that's unbelievable. My brother used to live in Queens, and I went for a Shabbat. I spent a Shabbat with him, and the one person who didn't walk up to me, but ran up to me, out of nowhere, by Rabbi Teitelbaum Shul. Rabbi probably doesn't remember this, because he does it so many times. He ran up to me, Shalom Aleichem, what's your name? And my brother told me, I want to tell you something. He said, Rabbi Paysach Krohn is the nicest person I ever met in my life. Not only a Talmid Chacham, he's a big inspiration. You should know that the fact that he took out of his time, he's only here for 2 days, 3 days, and he's taking time out of his schedule just to come here. I'm just very emotional. It's very beautiful. I just want to thank him in public, even before he begins, and I don't want to take up his time or yours. You can believe everything I said.
Who's hiding behind the mechitza? Is that your wife?
That's my daughter. My wife
your
wanted
daughter.
to make it.
Okay, welcome. It is such a great covet for me to be here and to speak to all of you. So many of you certainly know that I've come to speak in the Syrian community in Brooklyn many times. Rabbi Raymond Beda and I are like brothers. Rabbi Ilan Mansour and I have spoken numerous times together. And Harry Ashkenazi, all these guys, just the most wonderful people. And then, as the Rav mentioned, just a few weeks ago we were in Panama to give inspiration to 200 kids, boys and girls, the age between 18 and 26. And Hashem should help that they should want to come to a yeshiva like this. That was the purpose of that seminar, to give them chizuk, to show them the beauty of religion, to show them the beauty of Yiddishkeit, because deep down they feel a connection. Thank you very much. They do feel a connection to Yiddishkeit, but they just has to be cultivated so that they want to become really B'nai Torah, not only Balabatim that are Ovdei Hashem and Ovdei Be'emunah, but that they really want to grow in Torah and Yirat Shamayim. That was the purpose. Rabbi Fiyazi has a brother-in-law, Rabbi Moshe Katzin, and he was the one who brought me down. And then as an extra bonus, we had the great opportunity to spend a wonderful Shabbos together. And it was really very special, and I hope that we were able to accomplish over there, and I hope we'll be able to accomplish over here. I would like to share with you some thoughts of Torah and tell you some very inspirational stories that I think that if we consider these thoughts, that we could really become so elevated. You know, I look out at this scene that you guys have here, it almost is to cry. It's so beautiful. How could you not want to learn? You feel so close to Hashem. I mean, how could you compare this to Ocean Parkway? I mean, it's a joke, right? But look at the scenery here. I mean, even the dome doesn't look as nice as this. But, and where's the guy from Silver Springs? Where is he? The one who picked me up. Oh, there he is, right. So, you know, this is a little bit nicer than Washington, D.C. But anyway, this is a great place to learn, and I hope that you'll all be able to grow. So I want to begin by telling you that there was many years ago, there was a 10-year-old boy that was walking in a park with his Rabbi. He had a Melamed teacher, and the Melamed loved this little kid, a bright boy, and they were walking in autumn, and the leaves were green and brown and red and orange, just beautiful. And all of a sudden, the Rebbe noticed that there were a few leaves on a park bench. So the Rebbe picked up the leaf and he said, "My child, listen, look at this. Do you see these two leaves here? They think they're free. They think they could fly wherever they want. But they don't realize that in 2 days, they're going to die. They're going to wither and die. You know why? Because they're no longer connected to the source. They're no longer connected to the tree. It's only those leaves that are still connected to the tree that they can grow and blossom and flourish. But once they're disconnected, that's the beginning of the end. And he said, that's what the Torah is. It says, Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba. Eitz Chaim, it's like a tree of life to those who hold on to it. Those who hold on to Torah, they are the ones that can flourish and live a beautiful life. But once somebody is separated from it, so he thinks he can eat whatever he wants and watch whatever he wants and go wherever he wants, but it's just the beginning of spiritual death if he's not connected to the way of the Torah. And this Malamed, this teacher, said to the boy, you're going to grow up and you're going to meet all kinds of Jews, and they're going to think, hey, we're free, we can do whatever we want. But unless they are connected to the Torah, they will never be able to flourish. It's just the beginning of their spiritual death. And this 10-year-old boy told me that this message carries him till this very day. And you know who this 10-year-old boy is? You won't believe. Rav Matisyahu Solomon, the Mashgiach of Lakewood. And he told me that Melamed gave him such an outlook on life that every single day we have to be connected to Torah. And every day we have to be connected to Tefillah. And in general, there are three things that a Jew always has to believe in. He has to believe in Hashem, he has to believe in Torah, and he has to believe in himself. It's very important to believe in yourself and realize that every single one of you has tremendous, tremendous potential. And I'll just give you just a small example. If let's say that you become a teacher in Klal Yisrael, or you become an influential person, today with the media, for example, when I speak for the Chavetz Chaim video, I remember the first time that Michael Rothschild from the Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation said to me, how would you like to speak for 5,000 people? I said, come on, look, what are you talking about? Where are you going to get a hall? There's no hall that holds 5,000 people. Where are you going to rent out Madison Square Garden? So he said, no, don't worry, you'll see. And we filmed it in a Beis Yaakov in Brooklyn. Many of you are familiar, BYA. And he said they were going to, this was in 1991, and he said, we're going to send it out to Jewish community centers, to camps. And that, even, they filmed it with 2 different cameras. And that summer, when they sent it out, about 2,000-3,000 people, actually, maybe even more, saw it because they sent it out to so many places. Today, the Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, because of communication, when we film something on Tisha B'Av, actually, I'll tell you a great story. I realize I'm on tape now, but you see, every place I go, I always drink water, when I'm speaking. So I remember they don't film it on Tisha B'Av, they film it like a month before, right? So I'm standing there, and then he says, hey, wait a second, we gotta film this over. I said, what's wrong? He says, we're showing this on Tisha B'Av, you can't be drinking, the whole world's watching you drink, and it's Tisha B'Av, because nobody knows, you don't think about it that you're filming it before. But anyway, at this point, with communication being what it is, there are close to 80,000 people that see that one thing. So with communication today on YouTube, on Yeshiva World or whatever, when you do something special, the whole world can know about it. So when you learn here and you grow and you become that great person, you could really, it's no joke, you could really influence hundreds of thousands of people with communication the way it is. And that's the purpose of coming to Eretz Yisrael, to grow, to make a commitment in your life that Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba. So I want to share with you something amazing. And this was told to me by Rabbi Noach Isaac Olbaum, who's a great Talmid Chacham. He lives in Queens. And he spoke, we made a CD and before the Siyum HaShas. And he told this story, that in the early 1900s, there was a man who wrote a commentary, a Perush on Yerushalmi. Now, we know to know Bavli is quite an accomplishment. And this person wrote a commentary on the whole Yerushalmi, and his name was Diritvaz, Rabbi Yaakov David Wilofsky. And he came to America to be able to raise funds so he should be able to publish his sefer and his commentary. But then he gave a great speech, and he said like this, that many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, there were communities that were known as mitzvah Jews. Why were they known as mitzvah Jews? Because they were not Talmidei Chachamim, but they had a commitment to mitzvot. Some communities, they were exceptional in kashrut. Some communities, they were exceptional in Shabbat. Some communities were exceptional in tefillah. And they gave over that love of that mitzvah to their children, who gave it over to their children, and that's how they remained religious. because each one of those communities, they felt a connection to all mitzvot, but specific mitzvot, like we said, Shabbat, Tefillah, Kashrut, whatever. He said, but I want to tell all of you something. He said that was only good when there were no winds of secularism and winds of materialism and winds of immorality. He said something fabulous. The Torah, actually in Mishlei, it says, Kiner mitzvah v'Torah or. Kiner mitzvah, every mitzvah is like a candle. So he said, imagine in this room right now, all the windows are closed, right? So if we have a candle here that's lit, it's going to be able to light all the way till the bottom. But what happens if you open up the window and a ruach comes in, a wind comes in, it's going to blow out the candle. So when you have a community that does not have Torah, they're not Talmidei Chachamim, just mitzvot. So that's great when they're self-contained. But when you have world communication and you got the outside winds, the outside influences, it can blow out the candle. However, Kiner mitzvah, but Torah is or. Torah is light. What does that mean? Like a fire. You ever see these pictures when they show the fires of the forests in California? Tremendous flames. And what happens when the wind comes? Just the opposite. It doesn't put out the fire. It makes the fire even stronger and it spreads it. So when somebody comes to Eretz Yisrael and he learns Torah, he becomes so strong that when he sees and he feels the winds from the outside world, secularism, materialism, immorality, it makes a commitment just the opposite. I'm going to learn more Torah. I don't want those winds to destroy me. Then, of course, we have to do mitzvot. But doing mitzvot alone is not strong enough. We have to know Chumash, we have to know Tanakh, we have to know Halacha, we have to know Gemara. That's what's going to give us the strength to become great. And then we give it over to our generations, and we're not afraid of the outside influences. And I'll tell you something amazing. That's why he said, Kiner mitzvah v'Torah or. But all of you know, certainly the New Yorkers and anybody who lives in New Jersey, know that we went through a very difficult time this past year with Hurricane Sandy. Hurricane Sandy, billions of dollars. Many people in the Deal community, many people in Long Beach, and not only Long Branch, but Long Beach and Long Island, and then along the coast in Seagate, and many people in Brooklyn, Far Rockaway. Terrible. Bell Harbor, devastation, billions of dollars. And so, I was thinking, what should a Jew's reaction be to something like that? After all, we see never so much destruction. And it occurred to me something very interesting. Many years ago, I had a Brit, many of you know that I'm a Mohel, and the Sandak was the Rosh Yeshiva of the Chevron Yeshiva. He's no longer alive. His name was Rav Simcha Zisel Brody. And he told me a fabulous story. He said when he was a little boy, this was 1920 when this story happened. He said he was 12 years old. And he lived in Yerushalayim, obviously not so far from here, in Zichron Moshe, in that neighborhood. And there were many shuls and many great tzaddikim. So they were known as Yakirei Yerushalayim. Yakirei Yerushalayim means the precious ones of Yerushalayim. And he said one of them was a man by the name of Hirsch Weissfish. Now, Rabbi Brody told me he's walking with his father, and about 30 feet ahead is the entrance to the Paysach Knesset, and there's a poster right next to the door. So they couldn't see from 30 feet away what it said on the poster, because it was small letters, but they saw that Rabbi Weissfish, he takes out a pen and paper and he's writing down what's on the poster. So they thought for sure when they get up to that poster, they'll see Tzaddik is coming to the city, or maybe God forbid somebody died and there's a funeral, something special. They come there, he told me he could not believe it. Don't forget, this is 1920. It said on the poster, a movie tonight is going to be played in Jericho, in Yericho. Boys and girls are invited, 7:30 to 10:30. Come, we'll all have a great time. They can't believe it. That's what he's writing? The Rosh Hashiva? Was he going to the movies when nobody's looking? Like, this tzaddik, what does he care about the movies? What does he care when the movie is playing? Why did he write it down? So he told me, as a 12-year-old boy, he could not pray that morning. He was just like, looking at this tzaddik, what's going on? Why would he be interested in that? After the tefillah, the tzaddik comes over to the little boy and says, come here, I want to talk to you. He said, I saw you were looking at me a whole time. You're probably wondering what I'm doing. He said, I'll tell you. He says, when the cinema, that's the word that he used, the cinema, the movies in Eretz Yisrael is a new thing. It's terrible. It's terrible for the Jewish people. The Yesod Hatorah is very strong when the boys and girls get together. So me and my chavruta, what we decided is that we want to have a counterforce, a counterbalance, so that when they are playing the movie, me and my chavruta, we go into the base of Medrash, from 7:30 till 10:30, we learn B'li Hafsaka. We learn a whole time without break. You know why? To show Hashem that when the Yesod Hatorah is strong, we have the Yesod Tov, that we're going to counterbalance that. That's why I wanted to write down exactly when the movie is playing. So be able to see when me and my chavrusa, when we have to go into the Beis Medrash. So that taught me a great lesson, that if there is an evil, then perhaps there has to be something to counterbalance that. So it occurred to me that really, in Sukkot, we began saying Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hashem, right? We began saying that Mashiv Haruach, the winds should come in, Umorid Hashem, and the rains. And look what happened a few weeks after Sukkot. The winds and the rain came in such a way, it never came like that in America before. And devastation. So maybe we have to balance that. How do we balance that? So you know what I was thinking? Mashiv Haruach. In our lives, we have to bring in Ruchnias. We have to sweep. Ruach is not only wind, but it's Ruchnias, spirituality. The way we dress, the way we think, the what we talk about. You know, now that the Knicks are out of it, so you don't have to worry anymore. Okay, so, you know, we can get back to normal. Okay? Unless you're a LeBron fan, but otherwise, basically, right? The stress, Mashiv Haruach should be Ruchni, so more than Hashem, and minimize the Gashmias. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not supposed to wear nice clothes. Everybody needs clothes, everybody needs money, everybody needs food. So we have to have Gashmias, but that's not the stress. What do we think like? Who do we want to be like? LeBron James? Or do we want to be like a big tzaddik? Right? You have to think about that. What's the stress in our lives? What is hanging on the walls in our homes? I always tell families, now of course you guys are young yet, you're not married, but when you go into your house, take a look at the refrigerator, not inside, that's a different problem. I'm talking about outside. You'll see what families put on the outside of the refrigerator. It's a big lesson. They have the Mets schedule, the Mets schedule, Rahman al-Islam, you know, the Mets, the Yankees schedule, they have a problem, but the Mets is awful, right? But, what do you got on the outside of the refrigerator? Or do you have the times for Sfirat Omer? Pictures of children and grandchildren, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But the idea is that shows what's hanging in the house, what's hanging in your room. Go back to your home and take a look at what's hanging in your room. I'm a big believer in following sports, but chas v'shalom, those guys shouldn't be hanging on your wall. Rock stars should not be on your wall. I'll tell you where they should be hanging, but not on your wall, right? So there's no question that we need Gashmias, but it should be Morid HaGeshem. It should be a little bit lower. So I want to tell you something. The two guys who picked me up. Here's one tzaddik, and where's the other one? That was you, right? Okay. You'll not believe. They're standing outside my sister's house in Shafat. All of a sudden, a guy comes over to me. He says, Rabbi Krohn, you remember me? And I'm thinking, wait a second. I can't believe it's this guy. I said, Kobe? He said, yeah, I'm from the Vertigo story. I can't believe it. So I said to the guys, it's Mamash Siman Min HaShamayim, that I should remember this story. Now, I haven't told the story in, I don't know, maybe 2 years. But this story is one of the greatest stories ever. It's unbelievable. Now, I can show you a picture of this guy afterwards. You will never in a million years. I mean, this guy looks like Rabbi Fiazi. And he comes over to me one Sukkot. We was here for Sukkot with my wife and children. And he says to me, Rabbi Krohn, I got a story to tell you. Now, it was after the first day of Sukkot. Now, for him, he's Israeli, so the second day was not Yom Tov for him, it was Chol Hamoed already. So he had time, but I had to go home and make Yiddush. I said, excuse me, sir, I love to hear stories, you know that, but, I got a family, I got to go home and make Yiddush. So he said, okay, good, I'll come to your sukkah and I'll tell you the story later. Okay, fine. All right, fine. Well, I said, what's your name, Yaakov? Okay, good. He comes to the sukkah, all my family is sitting around, and he says, the first sentence, I thought my mouth would drop. He said, I used to be a jet fighter pilot in the Israeli army. The guy looks like, could you imagine Rabbi Fiazi or Rabbi Amar? Did they look like jet fighter pilots? Not exactly. But that's what this guy, he said that's what he was. He was in the Israeli army. So all of a sudden everybody's quiet, like they can't believe it. He says, let me tell you what happened. He says, it was before one of the wars, and I was the lead jet fighter pilot in a squadron of 5 planes. And he put that like his hands. He said, I was the middle one, I was the lead. And there were 2 guys on my right, 2 guys on my left. And we would go out every night. And this was a practice run before the war. I would shoot out a flare. We would travel, let's say, in the dark of the tarmac. No lights at all, because we had to practice in the depth of night so that nobody would see us. And they wouldn't be able to be detected. So they fly out, I found, let's say 10 miles or whatever, over a field, and he is the lead pilot. He shoots out flares of light. They come from both sides, like the 2 fingers on the right, 2 fingers on the left. They bomb out the area, and then he goes up, and then he comes back, and then they all come back to the tarmac in the dark. Every night. they went out and they did that. 5 fighter pilots, and at that time, he was known as Kobe. Let me just make a bracha. Don't show it on Tisha B'Av. Okay. But anyway, so he shoots out the flare. One night he goes out, he shoots out the flare, and then all of a sudden, his head begins spinning. Now, when there's something called vertigo. Vertigo means that when a person is in such a high elevation that a person thinks up is down and down is up, and you can get mixed up. So that happens not often, but it does happen. Now, for example, I don't know if you know this, but you know that President John Kennedy, he had a son. Now, I don't know if you know that his son once flew a plane to Boston on a Friday night, and he crashed. He crash landed. And they found out afterwards, they suspected that he had vertigo. He wasn't the most experienced pilot, and he had vertigo, and the plane crashed because he was just so disoriented. Now, Kobe told me he's flying. Now, all of a sudden, because his head was spinning because he had gone so high that night, instead of going up, he started going down. Because he thought that he was really, higher, lower than he was higher, and he thought that he has to go high, but his head was spinning, and all of a sudden he takes the plane and he's going straight down. Now, there is something on every pilot's dashboard. It's called an altimeter, and it comes from the word of altitude. And he takes a look at the altimeter, that's what it's called, the altimeter, and it shows that he's losing height and he's going down. Now, he knows he's not going down, right? He thinks he's going up. Now, in every jet fighter pilot plane, they have 2 altimeters. The reason is because if a guy has vertigo and he thinks he's going up, but the plane shows he's going down, he's going to say, nah, come on, that's broken. That's a broken altimeter. So, therefore, they need 2 of them to show him that he's the one that's mixed up, not them. Okay? Because if, let's say, only one shows that he's going down, so he'll figure out, no, come on, I know what I'm doing. But now he sees both are saying that he's losing ground. Now, his body, his body feels that he's going up, but his head tells him something's wrong. So he yells into the microphone, because he's got connection with microphone systems to the flight. He says, tell me my height. Where am I going? Am I going up or am I going down? I think I'm going up, and my altimeter shows that I'm going down. So they said, you're losing ground. In 5 seconds, you're going to hit the ground. You're going to die. So he told me that he had to do the most difficult thing in his life. And that was to pull, I forgot what it's called. It's not called a throttle. There's another word for it. That he had to pull it forward to himself to turn around the plane. Now, this was so difficult because in his mind, that was going to make him go down. Really, it was going to make him go up. But he thought that he was killing himself. But the outside guys told him, hey, look, you're losing ground. And so therefore, you better change your direction. And of course, he did that. And then all of a sudden, the plane switched from going down and went back up. And then as he came back towards the tarmac and he started going back, his head cleared and he realized that they had saved his life. And he landed on the tarmac and he landed perfectly. And he said when he became a Baal Tshuva, years later, he said he realized what that night was. That night was the fight of the Yesod Hatorah against the Yesod Tov. And he said sometimes we're flying high. And what we have is spiritual vertigo. We think we're accomplishing, we think we're going high. But then we come to the yeshiva, and the Rosh Yeshivas and the Mashgiach and the friends say, hey guys, you think you're going up, you're going down, you don't realize. And a person is so caught up in it, he's got ruchniistic vertigo, he's got spiritual vertigo. He doesn't realize. So he needs the guys on the outside to tell him, you're going in the wrong direction. And when you listen to those that are on the outside, that haven't known the gayest, they're just trying to help you. And then all of a sudden, you straighten out the plane, you straighten out your life, and then you're flying in the proper direction the rest of your life. And that's what happened with this guy. And today, you take a look at him, he's a wonderful person, wonderful family, came with his kids to the sukkah. And that's what we have to know, that sometimes we need that Rebbe, we need that Mashgiach, we need that friend to tell us, hey, listen, your stress is too much on Gashmias. We got to get back to Ruchnias. We're in Eretz Yisrael, we're not here forever. We got to take advantage of the time that we're here and grow every single day. And that's my bracha to every single one of you. That Hashem should bless you, that every day should be accomplished, every day should be happy and healthy and grow, excuse me, not only Baruchnias, but even more Gashmias. Take advantage of the years that your parents allow you to stay in Eretz Yisrael. because this is really the greatest time of your life and the greatest opportunity for growth. Hashem should bless every single one of you. Should bless the Rosh Hashiva, that you should not have to go to Panama and raise money, and that all your parents and grandparents should support this school like nobody's business, and you should all be able to listen to the Rosh Hashiva.
Amen.